Hello everybody, welcome to Amar's Game Chat. I hope you're all doing well and staying safe. I am Amar wearing a Pikachu t-shirt, which is pretty cool, but obviously it'd be cooler if I was wearing a Nidorina t-shirt, because Nidorina is the 30th Pokemon in the Pokedex. But as you could tell by that little tidbit, this is my Pokemon Presents for Pokemon Day 2026, which is also Pokemon's 30th anniversary Pokemon Presents predictions. So I'm very excited to do these predictions. Obviously, again, it is the big Pokemon Presents because it's for the 30th anniversary. And yeah, I'm very excited for this Pokemon Presents. I'm very excited just for Pokemon Day itself and Pokemon, Pokemon's 30th anniversary and everything that they're going to do this year. So I've wanted to do these predictions for a while now. Obviously, I've had to jot down my predictions and think about what I did want to predict, but now we are here. So again, I'm very, very excited for everything. As you can see, we're also joined by a couple of Pokemon behind me. And then, some decorations that I put up, like some of my older games up there. We have some of the Switch games over there as well, just to, start decorating a little bit for the 30th anniversary. So my plan for this week is to do a bunch of 30th anniversary like themed videos. So maybe like one video where I talk about some of my favorite Pokemon cards that I have, another video where I talk about some of my experiences with the entire franchise, and then obviously maybe like a room tour with all the different decorations I put up for the anniversary, and then obviously the like reaction to the Pokemon Presents, which is going to be really awesome in my opinion. I'm very, 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 very excited and just very, I'm just waiting for, I want to see everything that they're going to show off for the year, all these cool things that they're planning for for the rest of the year, the rest of the 30th anniversary. But yeah, I rambled on a little bit there. I would like now to just get into the predictions. So I hope you all enjoy this video. I hope you all have your own predictions. Feel free to leave them down in the comments below. But without further ado, let us get right into it. So I have written down a bunch of my different predictions. So I have made a lot of different thoughts and a lot of predictions on what I think they're going to show off in this Presents. Obviously, maybe some things that are maybe a little bit further out that they might not show off in this Presents, but we also have another Presents usually throughout like the entire year. Normally like in June, July, August. So we could see some more games and some more information about 30th anniversary and some of the things that they announced here during that Presents. But I wrote down a lot of different things that I wanted to talk about. There's a lot of, I'm honestly expecting this to be a pretty big Presents, just because it is the anniversary Presents. There's probably some things that they were holding back on announcing like last year. That's so they can announce them now to like make a bigger deal, since this is a big deal. We are at the 30th anniversary. We're expecting, the 10th generation of Pokemon games. So, that's a little hint about what I'm going to talk about, some of my predictions there. But, it's going to be a big year for Pokemon, I'm assuming, and I'm thinking. So I wrote down some big predictions, obviously some smaller stuff as well. It is a Pokemon Presents, so we always get like mobile news and like news about, maybe some like different animes, some of the different like multimedia series and everything, like pretty much every single one of Pokemon's plans have a chance of showing up in these Presents. So we usually get a lot of different news. So, I'm gonna try my best to predict as much as I can for, that's right for this Presents. But we have a lot. Obviously, and one of the big things I obviously want to start off with is the fact that normally when we're doing these prediction videos, we also always talk about, if NSO titles, the mainline games for like the Game Boy and the Game Boy Advance and the Game Boy Color, maybe even the DS games would make it over to the Switch or the Switch 2 now. And, that's not really a prediction we can really make this year. Obviously, there's a chance they surprise us and they add even more games to like NSO or just the Switch in general. But obviously, we already have Fire Red and Leaf Green announced for Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2, and they'll be launching right after the Presents on Fridays. So I don't really expect them, I just want to get that out of the way. I don't really expect them to do like red and blue or yellow and like gold, silver, crystal, or like even ruby, sapphire, and emerald, just because I think Leaf Green and Fire Red's enough. That's a pretty big title. They've already made like a pretty big marketing campaign off of it. They're selling like sitting plushies on the Pokemon Center that are like all Kanto themed. They've also talked about, they like released Nintendo music, like for Fire Red and Leaf Green. So there's already so much that they've already done for it that I don't expect them to like do all that and then also do like Ruby and Sapphire and Emerald marketing, or like Red, Blue, and what's even Red, Blue, and Yellow marketing is kind of tied into Fire Red and Leaf Green marketing. So I think that's gonna be like their big retro release or like nostalgia release for this Pokemon Presents like this year, which is pretty cool. I already pre-ordered them, so I'm very excited to go play them once the Presents ends. Maybe we'll have another shout drop during the Presents, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself there. The first place I want to start off with is the multimedia projects. So because I'm expecting, maybe not like a bunch of multimedia things to show up here, but I'm expecting, a couple of like movies, maybe a movie to be announced, or like a television show, maybe some like animated shorts, maybe something for a streaming service, like stuff like that. Again, there's like always so much that they could show off here. There's always things with Pokemon, the Pokemon Company and like Nintendo and Game Freak and everybody's like always working on. So there's so many, different things that they could be doing on this front. But I did write down a couple of different things, a couple of things that I think would be fun to happen, a couple of things I think are more realistic, and then maybe one big thing that, it'd be like a huge surprise if they did it. And the first thing I want to start off with is I think they're going to do a 30th anniversary mini series. For the 20th anniversary and the 25th anniversary, we did get mini series that revisited the different regions at the time. So I think we had in 2020, I think I wrote it down, like we had like Generations, I believe that's what it was called, and they went to like every single region and like they did an episode on it and it was really cool. And then 2025 they did something very similar, and that obviously that one included Alola and Galar. So I'm kind of expecting them to do something similar this year, like in the same vein of that. It might be a little different because we've only had one new region since the 25th anniversary, being Paldea. So maybe it's like a little bit, maybe it would be a little bit of like a little repetitive if they only did like one new episode just on Paldea. But I also think in this case they can do like an episode on Hisui, the older version of Sinnoh from Pokemon Legends Arceus, and maybe even a modern episode on Pokemon Legends ZA's Kalos. I think that'd be pretty cool if they if they don't feel like they have enough new region or like new stories that they can revisit like in a series like this. But I do think they're gonna do a series like this. Those are always like really fun things for them to do. Again, I could see it if they want to include like the Generation 10 region. I could see them maybe doing something where it's like maybe towards the end of the year that they start releasing the episodes, and so like maybe by Pokemon Day next year they have like the 10th generation episode, and like we see that region and we visit the different Pokemon that that region's going to introduce to us. And maybe they can also tie it in with like presumably a Generation 10 DLC being announced next year. I think that'd be pretty cool. But I do think, that's probably gonna be like their big multimedia announcement for this this Pokemon Presents, which is gonna be very cool. It's gonna be really cool. Obviously, we're gonna see a bunch of like the protagonists from the older games, and even like Paldea and obviously and like Galar and everything. But we're gonna see those protagonists probably again. We're gonna see a bunch of different gym leaders. We're gonna see obviously Pokemon from those regions. I think always, like as I said earlier, there's always like fun series that they do. I love when they go and like revisit older regions throughout like their miniseries animes. And I always love like these miniseries animes. Like they're always really cool. Obviously, they did one for Hisui. I think they did one for Paldea, maybe. Obviously, like there's always like smaller ones. I think they normally do one a year, so this would be the one for the year. I'm thinking maybe they do more than one this year, but I think that's gonna be like their big announcement for like when it comes to like animation and like the major series, like something new for the animation side and like the television side and like the streaming side. But I have a couple other things I've written down that maybe shows up in this Presents. Obviously Pokemon Horizons is the current ongoing anime. I'm not as caught up in Pokemon Horizons, so it's very possible that they're like on a hiatus right now, so it wouldn't really make sense for the show up in a Pokemon Presents. But I think that they are playing new episodes and like they have like new episodes coming up really soon. I think that makes a lot more sense. I think that would make a lot of sense for it to show up in the Pokemon Presents and give us like a little bit of a teaser of like what's next for this series. Maybe like they show off like a new legendary that they're going to be introducing. Like the last thing I remember like seeing like the shiny Rayquaza. So I'm a little far behind, but it'd be cool if like they introduce like another legendary that like the group is like going after, and like the different they like the main emphasis of like that season and everything. I think that'd be pretty cool. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a look here if that's like something that's coming up really soon. Obviously, if it's not coming up really soon, we probably won't see it here, but I think it'll be really cool. Maybe they'll also like maybe show off some like merchandise for Pokemon Horizons. I think that'd be pretty cool in that end. I'm gonna say a lot. I'm gonna say a lot in this video, like I think things this may be pretty cool and pretty exciting. But I think these things will be pretty cool and exciting. But yeah, I think if like Pokemon Horizons is currently ongoing still in terms of like you know again episodes very soon, I think we will see it again in this present, which would be pretty cool. But we also have Surfetched in Pichu, which was announced last year, I believe, in last year's Pokemon Day Presents. And that was dated for 2027, so we're still a ways away from it. We are probably at least 10 months away from it releasing. But again, this is the 30th anniversary Presents for Pokemon Day, for obviously the 30th anniversary. So I think there's a chance we see it here. I think this might be like the first time we see like a major look at it. Maybe we get like a first teaser trailer of like some of like the different scenarios we'll see in this series. I think it's gonna be maybe on Netflix. I don't remember if they confirmed like where it's gonna be airing, but again, it would be really cool to show off here. Obviously, I think we'll see it again. I think we'll see it at some point this year, whether that be like separate from the presents or during the second presents that we normally get throughout the year. But I think obviously it'd be pretty cool to see Surfetched and Pichu. It does look really fun. Obviously made by the Wallace and Gromit people, which is also really cool. So I'm very like claymation style. That's also awesome. Obviously we kind of saw that with Pokemon Concierge. So that'd be like I really like Pokemon Concierge a lot. So I think it's just really cool that they're doing like these different animation styles and everything with the Pokemon IP. So I think again, pretty awesome to see it here. But again, I think we'll see it again at some point during this year, and then maybe like in the next time we see it, if it's not in this present, maybe we get like a release date for it. That's like early next year or something like that. But before I go into like the big thing that I think could maybe overshadow a 30th anniversary series, I do have like maybe something unexpected. Like I'm not sure like Pokemon Concierge or Pokemon Surfetched and Pichu were like things that were expected to be announced when they were announced. So maybe something like that's new. Maybe they do a new animation style. Maybe they do something that's like maybe I wouldn't say like merging live action and the animation, but something on the same wavelength of Pokemon Concierge and Surfetched and Pichu. Maybe another like slow motion, like live action. That's live action, like claymation style type of series, or like I think it's called slow motion like filmography, where like you're like actually like animating the characters like in real life, and I think that's really awesome. I think that'd be pretty cool if they did that again. I think that's like what Pokemon Surfetched and Pichu is, like claymation again. So I'm very excited for those things. I'm very excited just to see if they have a new anime, like a new type of series that they're going to be introducing. But again, I think that the major thing for animation and everything will probably be between Pokemon Horizons and like a 30th anniversary like mini series for the year, which would be pretty awesome. But the big thing that I wanted to talk about that could show up here, and I think could overshadow a 30th anniversary series, is something that's live action. It's kind of an interesting thing, because obviously we've already gotten a live action project from Pokemon through the Detective Pikachu movie, which is also really awesome. And one of my predictions here is if we do see something live action here, it would be Detective Pikachu 2, because I believe like it wasn't ever confirmed that they were working on it, but it was like heavily rumored that they were working on it. Maybe like they put it on the back burner for a little bit. Maybe this is the time to announce that it is in full production or pre-production, and they're getting ready. Like they've been writing scripts for a while, and now like they're getting ready to actually film the movie or something like that. But on the other hand, I think another rumor, like another thing that's been wanted for a long time, is an actual live action series in the Pokemon franchise. And what I'm assuming it would probably be is like a Kanto series, something very similar to like the first seasons of the anime with like Ash and everything. But like obviously it's the 30th anniversary, so it makes sense for them to also like revisit Kanto, especially with Leaf Green and Fire Red also being released on the Switch and the Switch 2 this year, or right after the Pokemon Presents. But I think that's more of a pipe dream. I would honestly get really excited if we saw something live action in terms of like a new series, like a live action series for Pokemon. But I'm not really expecting it, because again, that's not really something we've really seen Pokemon really try. Obviously, again, before Pokemon Concierge was announced, or like before Surf Fetching Pichu was announced. We hadn't really seen anything else. Like we hadn't seen those type of things from Pokemon before either. So live action maybe is the next step for them in terms of like this space. But I also think maybe that's not really something they want to do. Who knows? But again, I think that honestly, depending on how they announce something like that, like if it is a Kanto series, I do think it could overshadow their big announcement. Like from general, like everyone's like assuming what the big announcement is going to be is Generation 10. I think this honestly also could like go hand in hand with that announcement, which would be awesome. But yeah, that's what I think could like be the big thing for like multimedia stuff. But I also wrote down there could be a new movie. We obviously haven't gotten a new animation movie or like new animated movie since I believe 2021 with the movie that was focused on Zarude. So, and I mean, I think it makes sense. Again, this is the 30th anniversary, so maybe you want to tie in so many different things to it, and that includes the reintroduction of animated movies, maybe with the cast from Pokemon Horizons. But I think that'd be pretty cool. I think again, that's not really like we can't really predict. Obviously, it could be like a series that's focused on Pichurunt or maybe Terapagos or something like that. Obviously, Terapagos is also in Pokemon Horizons, so maybe that's not something they want to do. But like a series again on Pichurunt or you know, technically, I guess no. Well, yeah, Pichurunt is the mythical really from Generation 9. We did get like the mythical from Generation 8 with Zarude. So again, Pichurunt would be pretty cool. You know, again, we could also just focus on like the Ogerpon and like Monkey Dory and like those type of Pokemon, like those Pokemon from the Teal Mask. We could also see them get their own movie, and that'd be pretty awesome as well. But I think besides that, you know, that is all I really have for the multimedia side. You know, and that's not really talking about like that's really just focused on like the streaming and animated side. Obviously, we could see like a new like with the 25th anniversary. We also like this little concert that happened like the day after the Pokemon Presents. I could see maybe them not really doing like that again, like that specific type of format. Maybe they announced that they're doing like a Pokemon concert with like different orchestrated music, and then maybe some like big name singers also appearing and like singing different songs that are like tied to the anniversary. That Pokemon was like able to help I guess, or get to help them write a couple of songs that are related to the anniversary. And that'd be pretty cool. Obviously, I think we saw a couple of singers in the 30th anniversary ad that they aired at the Super Bowl, and they've like continued to air throughout like the last couple of weeks. So we could see that there. I'm assuming like those are some of like the bigger names that are going to be tied into the anniversary. So we'll probably be seeing them throughout the entire year, and like Lady Gaga and everything. So that'd be pretty cool. Again, I think everything's going to be pretty cool in this Presents, and I'm very excited for it. But that's like, again, that's all I really have for the multimedia side, and like what's like different, like the things that like I think multimedia stuff is the hardest to predict because there's so many different avenues they can go with it. Because obviously, like the next thing I'm gonna go into is like the trading card game, and there's only like a couple things you can really predict for there, and I think most of those things probably will happen throughout the year. But multimedia stuff, there's obviously so many different avenues that they can go. Maybe even make there's so many partnerships that they can make through that there's just so much. There's so many different possibilities. So I just wrote down some of the things that I would personally want. Again, like a 30th anniversary series, a live action Kanto series, so something new, something unexpected, like a new movie. I think those things would be pretty awesome. But the next thing is the trading card game, as I mentioned earlier. And I think the major thing with the trading card game would be largely focused around the 30th anniversary. I think we will get a 30th anniversary set announced at some point. Maybe not during the present, but we also already have Pokemon TCG cards that are releasing. I believe it's like first partner cards that that has the 30th anniversary stamp on them. And I'm expecting them to expand that a little bit more. Obviously, with like the 25th anniversary, we got like older cards, like older formats, like given to like newer Pokemon that wouldn't have ever been able to get those formats. And we also have like legendaries, like holo legendaries that got like the 25th anniversary stamp. We have the return of like a lot of older cards in general. And maybe that's something they also do again here. But I'm expecting something closer to what they did with like the 20th anniversary with like Pokemon Celebrations. I have my Elite Trainer box over there, a part of the decorations. But where like they have the Pokemon cards are just, it's like just a whole new series of just 25th anniversary cards and so many like different art, cool arts that they got and like put on the cards and everything. I think that's what I'm expecting more for this anniversary, but I do think we'll see a 30th anniversary like focus set, not like just the first partner Pokemon or the collection box that we just got for Pokemon Day, but I'm expecting again a big TCG set, just maybe multiple big TCG sets, because we also got in 2020, not 2020, in 2016, we also had Celebrations and Evolutions, which was pretty much a reprint of the first edition, like the first TCG set. I'm not expecting to do that again, because that was pretty awesome, but I could see multiple 20th anniversary sets show up this year, like one that is focused on maybe new cards, and maybe one that's focused on the older cards. Like maybe they do like a 30th anniversary set that's like very similar to Celebrations, and maybe they also do a 30th anniversary set that's similar to the one that they did for I'm not sure it was called Celebrations, it might even called, it was Pokemon Generations. The 20th anniversary is Pokemon Generations, and then the 25th anniversary of Pokemon Celebrations. So maybe they do something like Pokemon Generations for like one set like that, and then another set that was just like Pokemon Celebrations. But yeah, we also already know the next set that's going to be releasing outside of Japan, and that is Perfect Order, the one that's like focused on Zygarde. So they don't necessarily need to announce this set right now. I think they probably want to announce what's the next set after Perfect Order probably pretty soon, so like they can start putting pre-orders up for it and everything. They might have already announced the next set, if I'm being honest. They just haven't put pre-orders up for it yet. But I think at some point we will see a 30th anniversary set, and I think it'll be a pretty awesome set with like new cards and so many cool looking cards. And I could see that being announced here. I'm not sure if I mentioned earlier, but this Presents is expected to be 25 minutes long, or like around there. And that is a lot of information, especially now that we do have a big announcement that would have probably been like something that they talked about for maybe not like a long time in the Presents, but like a couple of minutes in the form of Fire Red and Leaf Green. And I'm expecting them still to mention that here in this Presents, but maybe like just to say it's already out. Like you can go and play it right now after the Presents. Or maybe it will be out during the Presents. You could play it while you're watching the reveal of Generation 10 or something. But yeah, I think there's gonna be a lot of different announcements here and everything, not just because it's 25 minutes long, but again, 30th anniversary with a fairly long Pokemon Presents. I think that lines up for like some pretty big and pretty awesome announcements, alongside obviously the normal stuff you get in Presents. But that is all I have for TCG. I do have like a little bit of a thing on TCG Pocket and TCG Live, but those are more aligned with like the mobile games and the console games that I have a section for, like a huge section for in this prediction video. But that is all I have for like the physical TCG. Again, it'd be pretty awesome to see the 30th anniversary set here, and this would be a great time to announce it. But obviously, we could see that again, maybe towards the end of the year, or not the end of the year, but like towards the middle of the year with like the next Pokemon Presents, or they could just announce it like totally separately. Like, they could say that they're about to announce something on social media, and then they just show it off. And I think that would honestly garner a lot of excitement on its own. So they don't necessarily need to announce it in the Presents, but it is 30th anniversary Presents. It would be awesome for them to show it here alongside like 30th anniversary merch, which is something we will just talk about in a little bit. And then the last thing I really have before we talk about games, is just stuff that's like miscellaneous, random things that I just couldn't really find a category for, but I did want to talk about. And that includes the merch. We'll just start with the merch because Pokemon TCG is also tied a little bit into the merchandising side. But I think we will see the announcement of like more 30th anniversary merch here. I don't think it'll be like too many new products, so we already have like the 30th anniversary like t-shirts that they released, which I bought once, so I'll be wearing that during the Presents. But like we have those announced. We had like a hat that was announced. I don't think a mug was announced. Maybe like a thermos was announced, I think. Like stickers, a ornament, which is over there. I have the ornament on Totodile over there. You can just kind of see it. Some pins, a lanyard, and stuff like that. Like card sleeves. But we don't, like in the 25th anniversary, I remember we got like a poster and we got some other pieces that we didn't really see yet announced for the 30th anniversary. I have the poster inside my closet. So that's why I'm pointing back there. But But yeah, I think we will see some, maybe, again, it's not like it needs to be like a huge thing, so it's not like it needs to show up in the presents. They could obviously just announce that outside of the presents like they did with the original, or like the initial set of the 30th anniversary merchandising, but or merchandise. But I could see that being announced here. Again, it's the 30th anniversary. I'm expecting some big things to show up here, and just in general, a lot of different cool things to show up, and like a pretty cool piece of merchandising for the 30th anniversary would be pretty awesome to show up here. But besides that, I also have a couple of events I want to talk about that they've announced already. So we have Pokemon Worlds and Pokemon XP, the first, ever Pokemon XP. That, I think that's gonna be pretty awesome. Obviously, tickets were supposed to go up for Pokemon Worlds already, right? Like soon after the Pokemon Worlds from last year ended, it was supposed to go up. They delayed them for, at least they haven't gone up yet, so they delayed them for a couple of months now. Maybe they're still ironing out some details. Maybe they're changing some things around. So they didn't like commit to everything just yet. But I think we see that talked about here. I think tickets do go up not very soon, but fairly soon after this present, maybe like in the middle of March or like the beginning of April. And I'm very excited for Pokemon Worlds and Pokemon XP. I would love to go this year, so I'm very excited, just to see what it's going to end up being like. But and then obviously we have some information of games that will be showing up Pokemon Worlds this year that I think they're going to talk about a little bit later. Oh, I'll talk about it a little bit later, but I think they're going to talk about like in coordination with Pokemon Worlds here. So I think Pokemon Worlds will show up, and I think Pokemon XP will show up, and I think they'll talk about them a lot more, especially in regards to Pokemon XP, just because we don't really know what it is. It seems like it's gonna be like a convention type of format where like you're gonna be able to like see different like vendors and everything, and they're gonna be selling merchandise there. Like it's gonna be like an extension of, I think, what Pokemon Worlds was for like merchandising and everything, but like a much bigger scale. And then they can have Pokemon Worlds just focus on the competitive side of everything, and that'd be very cool. That'd be very awesome. I'm very excited. I've really gotten to Pokemon Worlds, like the Pokemon World events in recent years, so I'm very happy that it's all happening, and they're playing such a big one for the 30th anniversary. But the other thing is Pokemon Day Out and Pokemon Night Out. Something they announced right after they aired the Super Bowl ad. I could see that honestly, like kind of forming into what Pokemon XP is, because it seems like that is like just like a meetup event, and like they're gonna have like different smaller like things that you can do there and everything. Like at these smaller events, because these seem like there's gonna be like a lot of different of these events throughout like the world and everything. So I think that'd be very exciting and very cool. So we'll probably also get information on that, and that maybe like that information could tie into Pokemon XP. In case you do not know, Pokemon Day Out is more of like a family-friendly, all ages type of event where like there's gonna be like different activities and everything. Maybe there'll be like meetups for like Pokemon Go, and maybe some battling type of like system set up and everything. And then Pokemon Night Out is more of like I think what they called it was like for the fans and like for the trainers that have been with the franchise for a long time. So like more of like an older type of demographic that they're aiming for with that one. And so there are obviously gonna be some events like tied with that as well, like some different some type of different activities and everything. And again, I could see like that as a whole being what like Pokemon XP ends up being like two different things, and Pokemon XP is just one big manifestation of everything like that. But I think we'll hear about those things here, because we don't really know much information on this year's Pokemon Worlds and Pokemon XP or Pokemon Day / Pokemon Night Out. So I'm very excited. I'm very excited just to hear about these different things that they're planning. And then the last thing is Pokemon at Universal Studios / Pokemon, or not Pokemon, Pokepark Kanto. And in fact, like there's a lot to do with that. It's not, well, I guess not really a lot. Obviously, I think they're going to be mentioned here because we just recently found out about Pokemon at Universal Studios a couple weeks ago. So, or like right around when Pokepark Kanto was supposed to open, or when it did open, not when it was supposed to open, when it did open. And I mean, I'm not expecting like too much news on that, because I feel like if they had a lot of news, they would have already talked about it when they officially announced it. But I do think they're gonna maybe talk about like how Pokepark Kanto was like a pretty big success, and they really liked the way it looks and the way everything turned out. And then maybe how they're applying like that same philosophy to what they're doing with the Pokemon at Universal Studio parks. I think Pokemon at Universal Studios is probably like a bigger thing Like maybe they're obviously they also have Nintendo World at these at like different at the Universal Studios parks. So I think Pokemon's gonna be tied into those like to a certain extent. Maybe not directly. Like maybe you'll have like they won't be like in the same area and stuff like that. But I do think maybe we see that here mentioned here. Like that's the same philosophy. They're gonna make like this big Pokemon world that you can go and explore at Universal Studios, and I think it's just a cool thing just for them to talk about and just to show off maybe some concept art for, and maybe give like a general range of when it's gonna be opening at like Universal Orlando or like Universal Japan and stuff like that. But that's pretty much it. I do have, again, I already talked about 30th anniversary merch. And then merchandising in general, obviously they could show off like maybe some new Legos, or they could show off again maybe some new plushies. Like I think they just announced a new line of plushies on the Pokemon Center. So maybe not, maybe they won't talk about like a new line of plushies, but stuff like that. There's like general merchandising, stuff like that. I think they've showed off some general merchandising stuff before in Pokemon Presents and everything like that. So it won't be like too unexpected, like too out there if they were to do something like that. But I think it'll be pretty cool. I think in general we see, again, before I get into the games, just a little bit like a summary. I think we will see things from like the television side and like the multimedia side. Maybe we'll hear the announcement of like some sort of concert event that maybe like this is gonna be like live streamed and everything. Again, the TCG, again some events, and yeah, merchandising, 30th anniversary merchandising and general merchandising. I think we could see all of those different things in the Presents. But I know a lot of people, including myself, also tune into these Pokemon Presents to hear about different games, both existing and the new games that they'll be announcing here. And so I have a couple of pages devoted just to that. In fact, I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like 10 pages devoted just to that. And that's like all the games. So I will try to go pretty fast through most of it, because most of it is just me talking about some of the things I think will show up from the games we already know about. Starting with the mobile games, and the games are on both console and mobile. So I'll probably go through these pretty fast, but for something like Pokemon Unite, I'm expecting some new Pokemon to be added, and maybe like a new stage, maybe like a new mode that's like pretty that's like tied into the 30th anniversary. And I think that would be pretty cool. If I had to guess a Pokemon, I think Jirachi or Celebi would be pretty awesome. We see Jirachi back there. Jirachi's right there. And then I have Celebi right here. Actually, I can probably guess Celebi. Give me a second. We have Celebi right here, which is pretty awesome. But I think we can see those two maybe show up as like characters you can play as, or Pokemon you can play as in Pokemon Unite. And just like in general, some additions, maybe some new updates for the game and stuff like that. That would be pretty awesome. Then we have Pokemon Cafe Remix. Again, I'm not expecting like something huge, like a full revamp of Pokemon Cafe Remix, like they did when they really released Pokemon Cafe Remix. So usually just Pokemon Cafe, I believe. But maybe some like new puzzles, maybe a 30th anniversary themed event that maybe has all the starters show up, and like they have their own puzzles, and maybe like new ways to get them to show up at your cafe and like be like the work of your cafe and everything. I think that'd be pretty cool. Pokemon Go, I think we've already kind of seen what the Pokemon Go plan for the year is, and like what for the anniversary will be. But I think maybe the announcement like new raids, some like new Pokemon showing up in some raids, some new feature updates, some new spawns, maybe the introduction of the ZA Megas, which I think I did see today that the new Dragonite Mega was also added for Pokemon Go. So that's already available. So that kind of confirms that I think maybe we'll see a couple more ZA Megas added to the game. Maybe they'll add the ability to get like 30th anniversary merch to show up. It's like wear in your game on your character. And then maybe some theme spawns for the anniversary, stuff like that. And then, we haven't seen Terra type show up in Pokemon Legends. I mean, in Pokemon Go. Pokemon Legends, something totally different. But we haven't seen Terra Pokemon show up in Pokemon Go yet. And I'm not expecting that to happen here, because we just got the introduction of Gigantamax like last year. And obviously we just had Eternatus like a couple of months ago. So, but maybe they tease that here. Maybe that it would be an interesting feature, I think, for Pokemon Go to have like Terra types added and everything. I'm not sure how how that would work logistically, because obviously now we would have Megas, we would have Megas, Gigantamaxes and Terratypes. And obviously they've already like kind of separated Megas and Gigantamaxes to a certain extent, because you can't Gigantamax like in a normal battle. But yeah, you know, Terratypes would be pretty interesting. Maybe you would have to choose if you want to Mega Evolve certain Pokemon, or Terratype, like Terrasilize some of your Pokemon instead. You know, that'd be kind of cool. But I don't know if they would like limit it that you can only have like one Mega or Terrasilizing. And then we also never saw Z moves show up in Pokemon Go, so maybe Z moves also show up at some point. But you know, again, I think we see like a general type of roadmap or update style for Pokemon Go. And then we have Pokemon Sleep, like maybe like a new island that they can just introduce with some new Pokemon that you can like collect. And I guess you're not really collecting Pokemon Go, but like you can you know, I don't really know how to explain what goes on in Pokemon Go, but like when you're sleeping, obviously certain Pokemon show up, and so I think maybe they can introduce like a new area, and then in that area, like there's new Pokemon that we just haven't seen show up yet in Pokemon Sleep. So that'd be pretty awesome. I wrote down like maybe like the weather quadrio that I'm not sure that's a word, but or Eternatus, not Eternatus, Enamorous, Thunderous, Tornadus, and Landers. I think are pretty cool. They all showed up and like had maybe like their own areas and their own like events that you can like have them show up on your areas and like while you're sleeping. I think are pretty cool. But I don't really know. You know, I haven't played Pokemon Sleep in a very long time. I really liked when I played it because I had like the Pokemon Go Plus, but you know, I just haven't. I think I kind of fell off of it at a certain point. Like maybe I kind of forgot to log some of my like hours and everything in the game, and then I kind of just, you know, pushed it away for like other Pokemon games to play on my phone and everything. But yeah, you know, Pokemon Sleep's pretty awesome. So maybe I think we'll see an update for it here. And then we have Pokemon Masters EX, which I think we've already seen that they're going to be introducing new sync pairs to the game and like new story events and everything. I think we'll see some of those sync pairs here. Maybe some rewards themed around logging in during the time of the Pokemon Presents and like the anniversary as a whole. And then we have Pokemon Friends. It recently just got a new update, and I love Pokemon Friends. Pokemon Friends is a very fun puzzle game in my opinion. I know like it's kind of like a reskin of another puzzle game, but I really like Pokemon Friends, and I really like the yarn making ability in it. I think it's just a very cool mechanic because you're still collecting Pokemon to a certain extent. So I think that's pretty awesome, but I think it will be largely absent in this Presents just because it just recently got an update with like quality of life features and some new puzzles. So I think like if they were planning to have like a new update for it or like a new announcement for it, I think that would have been it, and they would have held that off for the Pokemon Presents if they wanted to. And then, you know, again, we have Pokemon TCG Pocket. I don't really know what they would do with Pokemon TCG Pocket, because with Pokemon TCG Live, I know it's probably going to be very closely aligned to what they're doing with the actual set, like the physical TCG. So there's not really much to predict there. Maybe they'll add some like quality of life features to the application, like the app and everything. But Pokemon TCG Pocket, I think that'd be pretty interesting because we just got like the announcement of a Paldean theme set. So they're obviously not like expecting to do like something new like soonish, like within the next couple of months, I don't think. But I think we will see a 30th anniversary theme set for Pokemon TCG Pocket. I think it'd be pretty fun. I think it'd be pretty awesome to see it. Maybe it could be a tie-in to the 30th anniversary print set. So we see some cards from there. Maybe see some unique cards for both of them. That like some like exclusive cards Pokemon TCG Pocket, and then obviously some cards that don't show in Pokemon TCG Pocket and are just focused on like the print set and stuff like that. And then I did mention Pokemon TCG Live. I just want to say maybe we see it finally show up on Switch and Switch 2. I think that'd be a pretty cool announcement. Obviously, I think the Pokemon TCG Online never showed up on like the 3DS, or like I don't even think it showed up on phones. So I think TCG Pocket is on phones. So maybe the next step is putting it on the Switch and Switch 2 and making it maybe a little bit easier to access and stuff like that. I think are pretty awesome. But the last thing I wanted to talk about is obviously the chance that we see a surprise new mobile game show up in this Presents. I'm 50-50 on it just because Friends did just come out last July. And so it would be kind of weird to like have a mobile game like this close, especially since Friends just got a new update. But I think still be pretty cool if they really like at least announced a new mobile game. It doesn't have to release very soon, but like I wrote down, I would love to see Pokemon Rumble show up on mobile. I'd also love Pokemon Rumble to show up in general on the Switch, but it'd be cool to see Pokemon Rumble show up. Maybe something like Magikarp Jump, like it's just a game that you just pop into every like once in a while and you play for a couple of minutes and then you just put it down for a little bit and then come back to it later. Not something like Pokemon Masters EX or Pokemon Unite where you have to like actively engage with it. Just something like, again, something you just pop in a little bit, pop in, pop out, pop in, pop out, stuff like that. But that is it for that. I guess, and then we're pretty much getting into the console stuff here. Games that I would associate with consoles. Some of them, I guess there's two of them that I would say is also on mobile, but I do associate more with consoles. And that would be Pokemon Quest, which I don't think we'll see it here, but I just wanted to mention it. Maybe we finally see some new areas added to the game. Obviously, I think some regions outside of like the US and everything, like Americas and everything, has gotten new regions to show up in their Pokemon Unite. Not Pokemon Unite, Pokemon Quest. So it'd be cool if like some of that's added to the current, like the other versions of the game. I'm not expecting it because it has been so long since they released Pokemon Quest. I feel like they would have added it by now. But the other thing, we're pretty much getting into like the big things now, is Pokemon Champions. We did get an overview for Pokemon Champions after the last Presents in July, so I don't really know if it is going to show up. I mean, I know it's going to show up here, but I don't really know the form that it's going to show up in. Because when I was thinking about it, I could see this honestly being a shadow drop during this Presents or like right after this Presents. Just because I think they're going to want to get this game out before North American region, like the North American Championships. So it could be like have like a trial run at a big championships, because obviously I think they're going to try to also have it out for some of like the qualifying, qualifiers. But I think for like they want to have it for at least one big championship before it goes to Worlds. I think this would be the perfect time to do it. So I think the North American Championships are either in May or June. So they don't have a lot of time, but I think they also do have enough time to maybe release it like in the middle of March or at the beginning of April, have people try it out, see how get familiar with it, and then trial run it at Pokemon North American Championships. And I could see that honestly being the big focus of the Pokemon Champions show, like how much it's shown off here, just because again we did get the overview trailer in July, so we've pretty much know a lot of what it is. Maybe we see like if there's like some story content tied to it, or like how you get Pokemon if you don't transfer certain Pokemon over. Like I think they've already confirmed that you can get Pokemon in the game that you can use instead of just transferring them over. So I think they're pretty awesome and pretty fun, but just again, I think Pokemon Champion shows up. It probably is one of the bigger things that shows up here. And I think we could just see some new information and some pretty cool information on it, and then obviously a launch window or like a launch date or maybe a shadow drop, stuff like that. But again, and now we're pretty much into the console major games. And when I talk about big games, I'm talking about like the console, like the big ones, like the generational games. Not like generational games, but like Legends games and the Generation 10. Again, I've been hinting at that all throughout this video, and then Pokemon Pokopia, stuff like that. But the first place I just want to start off with is Pokemon Legends ZA and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I'm expecting like smaller events to show up here, again, because I am expecting Gen 10 to be announced here. But I think something like Pokemon Legends ZA, we don't have what the next like cycle will be for what the rank battles will be, so like what the rewards will be for getting to a certain rank in the ranked battles. Recently it's been, obviously it started off with the three Kalosian starters with Greninja, Chestnut, and Delphox, and then they went to Pax Caliber for the DLC, and then it went into the Hoenn starters, so Swampert, Sceptile, and Blaziken. And we don't really have an idea about what will be next. It could be maybe they add some like the DLC Mega Stones to the ranked battles, so it's easier to get those for those that don't have the DLC. Stuff like that. I think we will get an idea of that. I don't really think they're going to announce like another mystery gift event for the game, just because we obviously have Mewtwo and Diancie, so I'm not really sure if there's another Pokemon they could really do for a mystery gift. That like would be like a major thing. And because I think all the other Mega Stones are already in the game. I think that's what I'm kind of saying. So it'd be hard to do an event like that. I guess they could do. Well, no, they can't really do that either. I was gonna say maybe like Rayquaza, but obviously Rayquaza is also tied into the DLC to a certain extent. That might be a spoiler. I apologize, but obviously like we have pretty much all of like the Pokemon. Like again, we already know about like Kyogre and Groudon as well, so it'd be hard to like tie those into like an event and everything. So it would just be. I just don't really know what they would do after that, but I think we will get an idea about what their plans are for Pokemon Legends CA and their ranked battles right at like within this presents, and how the next couple of ranked battle like seasons will go, and stuff like that. Maybe well, because they can't really rerun the ones that they've already done because they're all still available, which is something I really like. You can right now jump into ranked, and I believe you can still get every single Mega Stone that they've had like exclusive to ranked. So that's really awesome, and I'm really happy that they're doing that because like for me, I missed I think the first two Home Stars. I think I also missed Back Caliber, so I jumped into Pokemon Legends CA for like a couple of like maybe like an hour or two, and I got all of them. I'm fully caught up now. I just gotta go back now and play and get Blaziken. So I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited to jump into Pokemon Legends CA for the anniversary week in general, but also now I got Blaziken to go get, which is awesome. And I guess like this is also the perfect time to talk about it. Pokemon Home. I think we will see Pokemon Home support announced for it. I think we will. I don't know if it's going to be happening right after the presents per se, but I think we will get the release day for it. And I've been waiting for Pokemon Home because I haven't finished the DLC yet. Obviously, I've seen some things of the DLC just because it's been so long, but I haven't finished the DLC yet. So because I don't like releasing Pokemon, so I would love to move like Pokemon I do want to release into Pokemon Home instead of just releasing them. So or not the Pokemon like that have a lot of duplicates up into Pokemon Home, and so I've been waiting for that. So I'm hopeful that we'll have an idea about what when Pokemon Home will be releasing for Pokemon Legends CA and like when that compatibility will happen. But I'm pretty sure we'll get it here. Maybe that's the only Pokemon Legends CA news we'll get, and then maybe like in a couple of weeks we do find out like how the ranked seasons will go forward in terms of rewards. And then on the other hand, we also have Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I'm thinking that I honestly I've been going back and forth on this just because we already got the Miraidon and Koraidon shiny events. I wasn't able to get one because that event was honestly pretty hard to get codes for. So that's like I think a lot of people are going like weren't able to get codes for it. But I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they rerun that event just in general through like Terra raids, or maybe they have some of the Indigo Disc like legendaries, not Terrapagos, but like the ones from older games that you can find in the game. Maybe we see that also appear like in Terra raids, so like everybody can get those. Maybe you can get like another Articuno or something in your game. And I'm thinking, but like I think that's what we're gonna see here for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I think it will be just primarily like raid battles and like a new raid event. Maybe they will bring back all the starters that I think every single starter has shown up in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet now. So maybe now they bring them all back. They have like a month-long event where you can go to different Terra raids and like 7-star raids and just go battle these starters and get the ones that you weren't able to get during they feel like you missed them earlier while they were like in the Terra raids and everything. So that's what I think will happen. I don't think we're gonna have like a new mystery gift or like a new story event or anything like that, but a cool way, I think that would be a very cool way to end the Scarlet and Violet's like era by having like just multiple new awesome raids that you can just go battle with like the starters or like legendaries and everything. I think that'd be pretty awesome. And it will kind of bring back like the feeling of like Dynamax Adventures. Obviously not to the extent like because Dynamax Adventures like you were battling like multiple Pokemon before you got to the legendary, but I think it would just be a really awesome thing just to see legendaries and everything in the raids. But the next thing, and I can go pretty fast through the next two things, and that is Nintendo Switch / Nintendo Switch 2 updates and NSO releases. So I'll just start with Nintendo Switch 2, Nintendo Switch, and Nintendo Switch 2 updates. This is primarily like performance upgrades and like new content updates for certain games, and I'm not really expecting to see any of that here. It would be with Scarlet and Violet, it made sense because obviously Scarlet and Violet did have some performance issues on the Switch, and they wanted to make sure it ran better on the Switch too. So again, that made a lot of sense to have that performance upgrade be out there. But for something like Sword and Shield, the biggest performance like issues that it has is in the wild area, and I think that's like there's like remedies for that, so they don't necessarily need to release a Switch 2 upgrade for it. And plus, it's been 7 years since Sword and Shield at this point, so I'm not really sure if they're like that interested in going back to it and giving it updates. Obviously, it would be pretty awesome if they were to do something like that, but I don't know if a lot of people are also asking for like obviously with Scarlet Violet ones it made sense because a lot of people were also asking for it, and I think it made the games just play a lot better, and I think a lot of people have a lot better of experience with it now. Even though I love Scarlet Violet just the base level on the Switch is probably one of my favorite Pokemon games of all time. I love those games, but I think with Sword and Shield, I think it would just make it's not something. It's just like a fun thing that they could be doing, or it's like just like a nice quality of life upgrade for it. But it's not something that I think is necessary for it. And that's like with every single mainline game. Like with Pokemon Pikachu, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, Legends Arceus, and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I'm not really sure there's a need for upgrades for those. Again, I think the only other one would have been Pokemon Legends Arceus, and maybe like bringing it to like the same standard that Pokemon Legends EA runs at on the Switch too. But besides that, I'm not really expecting anything. Besides like a Legends Arceus update or something like that, I'm not expecting anything. And then for like even the spin-offs on the Switch too, or like the Switch, and upgrades on Switch too, I feel like they would just do new games for those series. So like I wouldn't expect like an update for new Pokemon Snap. I think they would just do like another game that's exclusive to the Switch 2. Same thing with Pokemon Tournament, and then Mystery Dungeon, obviously. They could do an Explorers of Sky remake, which is right there. So Explorers of Sky is right there. I was looking for it. Explorers of Skies. Or they could do like a new Mystery Dungeon, so that's Gates of Infinity right there. But something like that, instead of like giving an update or upgrade to like Rescue Team Deluxe. So stuff like that. I don't really expect again to see any major updates or major upgrades for any of the older Switch games. But for NSO releases, I think obviously we've been throwing a little bit of a curveball here because we know that Fire Red and Leaf Green are relaunching on the Switch right after the Presents, but I think it is possible we also do see Colosseum and Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. I think those could show up again because we know those are coming to NSO at some point. Maybe they get release dates here. I don't like before they announced Fire Red and Leaf Green were coming to the Switch and Switch 2. I honestly felt like there was a good chance that Colosseum would have been like shadow drops during this Presents. And maybe it still happens. Maybe that's why they did the announcement for Fire Red and Leaf Green so early. But I'm feeling like, shadow drop wise, it would be the guaranteed Leaf Green and Fire Red champions, and now like the GameCube NSO games, or at least one GameCube NSO game. But I could also see the announcement of like new games coming in NSO. So I don't think we have like Pokemon Pinball on NSO yet. That'd be a cool announcement just to bring over. But stuff like that. I think the smaller games obviously could always be announced in a Pokemon Presents and that they're coming to NSO, but I don't really see any like announcements that are also releasing for NSO right after like the Presents or anything. But yeah, now we are onto, I think, the last two things before obviously the big thing, Generation 10, is the spin-offs. So we obviously already know Pokemon Pokopia, which very interestingly we also do have, and this is what's kind of why I want to get this predictions out before this event. But we have a Nintendo Treehouse tomorrow that is giving a spotlight on both Super Mario Bros. Wonder Nintendo Switch 2 Edition and Pokemon Pokopia. So obviously I think we'll see a lot of Pokopia during that Treehouse Live, and so I think I don't really know how much, I think we will see Pokemon Pokopia obviously in the Presents because it is releasing less than a week after the Presents airs. But I don't really know how much we'll see about it in both the Treehouse and this Presents. I think we'll see a lot of the stuff that we saw in the previews show up in the Treehouse Live, and then maybe we see a new trailer for Pokopia in this Presents, and maybe shows off like some new, some additional forms, so like Pokemon we already know about. Like we already have like the Moss Snorlax, and like the I think it's like the Ghost Pikachu. So that's very cool. And I think there's obviously more of that in Pokemon Pokopia. Obviously, we don't know a lot about the story just yet. So I think it would be pretty awesome to show off and see a lot more of the game there. Um, and honestly, I think I've mentioned this in a couple of videos I've already made about the Pokemon Day and Pokemon Presents in general. But I think I do expect Pokemon Pokopia to honestly be like one of my most played games of the entire year, behind maybe Leaf Green and maybe again pretty much the last game we're gonna talk about, Generation 10. But besides that, there's not like a lot we can predict about it. I think once we see a little bit more about it, we'll be very close already to when the game is launching anyways. So, I think we're gonna have a very quick, very nice segment on Pokemon Pokopia. It's gonna say that's releasing next Thursday, and then we're just gonna be so happy. We're just gonna go play it. Obviously, reviews will probably release on the Tuesday before and everything. So I'm just very excited. I'm very excited for Pokemon Pokopia. Again, I'm expecting to put a lot of hours into it. I think we've already heard that it's gonna have a pretty long story, like 20 to 40 hours, depending on how much you really want to do in the game. So I'm very excited for that. I'm very excited just to play some Pokemon Pokopia. It looks really, really fun. And the previews have made me even more excited for it. So I'm just counting down the days to Pokemon Pokopia at this point. And then the last thing before we get into Generation 10 is a new spin-off game. And I've been going back and forth on this, because I do think a new spin-off game is obviously in development for Switch 2 to come release at some point. But I don't really think we're going to see it here, just because Pokemon Pokopia is already, releasing just a week later after the Presents. So we already know about a major spin-off game that's going to be releasing. But, I just wanted to say, I would love to see a new Pokemon Rumble, or a new Pokemon Conquest, or obviously a new Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, or obviously maybe a new Poke Park, which is right there. I'm kind of basing a lot of this off, or maybe a new Pokemon Ranger. I just put a new Pokemon Ranger would obviously make a lot of sense on the Switch 2 with the mouse controls. But yeah, that's honestly a lot of just what I'm expecting from the spinoff. Obviously, we can get a new spinoff just like Pokemon Pokopia, but I can really only go off a lot of what I know and what we already know about Pokemon spinoffs. So I would love a new Pokemon Conquest, new Pokemon Rumble, or something like that. But to finish all of this off, obviously, the big thing I think a lot of people are expecting, including myself, to show up in this Pokemon Presents is Pokemon Generation 10. The next big Pokemon games. And yeah, I'm very excited for it. I think this will be the closer. The one that I have not talked about yet is obviously I think this will also have a pretty amazing montage of what the last 30 years Pokemon have been, and it'll probably be very emotional and everything. With all the memories and everything. But in 2016, they had that montage lead into the reveal of Sun and Moon, and then in 2021 we also had that montage start off the Presents. I'm kind of expecting it to start off this. Well, actually, no. You know what? No, I'm not. I'm expecting that montage to lead in Generation 10, the Generation 10 reveal, just because I think this is going to be a culmination of what this series has really have been for the last 30 years in one game, and I'm very, very, very excited for it. The only thing I can really predict for Generation 10, and and because I'm not expecting a huge showing for it just yet, I think they are gonna save that for like the Summer Presents, and then obviously once we get to Summer Presents, we'll probably be getting like trailers like every month, and then once we get like really close to the release, we might get a trailer like every week or something like that. But I'm expecting it to be a reveal that's very similar to what we saw with Pokemon Legends Arceus, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, Pokemon Sword and Shield, pretty much like the more recent mainline games outside of Pokemon Sun and Moon and Pokemon Legends ZA, like their initial reveals. I'm expecting we will see new landscape shots of the new region for Generation 10. I'm expecting we'll see the start of Generation 10. I'm expecting we'll see like a couple of returning Pokemon like Pikachu and like Poliwag, and let me think of another one like Spidops and maybe like Archaludon or something like that. I think we'll see like some returning Pokemon. I don't think we'll see any new Pokemon for this region and in this game in this presents outside of the starters, just because that's not normally what they do. Obviously, maybe we'll see like the new flying Pokemon, which would be pretty cool. Like the new like the Pokemon you can catch early in the game. That's like a flying Pokemon. But yeah, I'm expecting, maybe it would be pretty cool if they like changed up the starter typings and everything, and like just for this game. But I think that's something they would do like in like a Pokemon Legends game. And obviously, I love the water starters. So that's Totodile and Mudkip, and I think I have Blastoise on behind me as well. Yeah, Blastoise right there. So, and I think we have Sobble on the other side as well. I think Sobble's gonna be right there. Yeah, Sobble's right there. So I love Pokemon water starters. So obviously I'm gonna be choosing the water starter as long as the water starter is an option in this game. But yeah, that's honestly what I'm expecting the reveal for Pokemon Legends Pokemon Generation 10 to look like. I'm expecting it to look pretty good. I'm expecting it. I guess the big thing here is if it's gonna be a Switch 2 exclusive. And I'm expecting it to be a Switch 2 exclusive, and I'm also expecting it to release later this year, probably like around October, November. And I'm like, honestly, I'm very excited for it. I think it's gonna look really good, and obviously, come from me. Obviously, maybe I'm usually like I love all Pokemon games, so to me, I think it's gonna look really amazing, and I'm just really gonna be really excited for it. But yeah, and again, I think we'll also see the player character and obviously the region, and we'll get the names for it. There's been a lot of like speculation. I think we've seen like I don't know, I'm not sure if like there are leaks or like rumors about like what the names of the games are and like where they're gonna be taking place and everything. But again, that's not even that important now because we're so close to Pokemon Presents. I'm very excited for it. And yeah, again, I'm expecting the Generation 10 reveal to be the biggest reveal of this presents, and maybe even the biggest reveal of Pokemon in general. Because again, I think it's gonna also be like it's gonna be tied to that montage, and it's just gonna be really awesome just to see Pokemon and just all the last 30 years, and now it's all culminating just in Generation 10, and I think it's gonna be really awesome. But and again, I don't. Like the weird thing is like I saved this for the end, and like I'm like so excited for the announcement. I'm so excited just to see it, and it's obviously I think it's maybe even my most anticipated game ever. But I'm not expecting to see too much of it here because we don't normally see too much of like the game for every year. Like when they show it off for the first time at the beginning of the year, we normally don't see too much of it. It's normally like in the summer months, and then going forward we start seeing more of it. So that's kind of what I'm expecting here. But that is all I really have for you all today. So now we've gone through, let's see, 1 full page, 2 full pages, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we went through 8 full pages of just Pokemon predictions and everything. We went to what possibly might be double what the presents actually is going to end up being in terms of length. But I just want to talk about all the possibilities and just everything I want to see in this presents, and just everything I want to see from the 30th anniversary of Pokemon. And maybe include some fun stuff in there as well. Some things that are just unexpected, like Pokemon Pokopia. Like I know like we got a bunch of rumors before Pokemon Pokopia was revealed that we would see a new Pokemon spin-off in that Nintendo Direct. But I don't think anybody really predicted that we would see a game like Pokemon Pokopia show up. So I'm just expecting, obviously Generation 10, obviously some new cool, maybe like obviously the 30th anniversary series, a new TCG reveal. But also I would love just a pretty awesome surprise and everything. But yeah, I'm very excited for this Pokemon Presents. Again, I'm gonna try to do at least 1 video every day leading up to the presents. So this will be the Tuesday video. Yesterday's video, or like today's video when I'm recording this, was the Pokemon Ascended Ascended Heroes Elite Trainer box from the Pokemon Center opening. Maybe tomorrow, for you all, would be the video where I'm planning to just talk about some of my favorite Pokemon cards that I have. And then Thursday's video, maybe I'll do 2 videos on Thursday where like one of them's gonna be like my experience with the entire Pokemon franchise, just talking about some of my fondest memories of the franchise. And then also maybe I'll do like a little bit of a tour of everything that I've put up around here, just to kind of just talk about, and just like show off just some of the cool stuff that I've just kind of decorated my room with, just to get ready for the presents and Pokemon Day and just 30th anniversary in general. But yeah, that is all I have for you all today. You know, I still have Celebi right here, so that's Celebi, and then I also have Empoleon right here, and I have the Oshawott right here, and I have Ditto on that side, and a Fanfi figure. So I'm just very excited for Pokemon Day. I'm very excited just to see everything the Pokemon's getting ready to show off. And, you know, again, we probably will get another presents at the middle point of this year. So that's going to be very exciting to see more Pokemon. And I'm just very, very excited, very, very excited for this anniversary in this year. But again, that is all I have for you all today. Please, if you watched this entire video or you skipped a certain points, because I'm going to try to put some timestamps throughout the video, feel free to leave down your own predictions down in the comments below. But without further ado, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and make sure to make you happy, because I rhymes with my previous name, Generic Happy, and I'll see you next one. Goodbye.